to another episode of Convos with Sazón, with yours truly, Gata Mejia. Today, I'm extremely excited to introduce my guest, Con. You may know him from the What Do You Do for a Living viral series on both TikTok and Instagram with close to 1 million followers. So welcome. How are you?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on the show.
Of course.
I absolutely appreciate it, and I'm very excited to go ahead and
I'm excited too. So I ran into you in action on Bleecker Street, right? But like myself at the time, you know, many people have heard of your series, I'm sure, but they may not know who the face is behind the camera and what the thought process is behind it. So let's kick off. What do you do outside of your interviews on Bleecker Street?
Look, honestly, you know, that's a great question. And to be honest, I love working. You know, as boring as it sounds right now, I'm driven to work every single day. You know, there's no days off at all. You know, it just takes with the blink of an eye to go ahead and change your life. Even the weekends as well too. Like I'm constantly working the streets. You know, I'm answering emails left and right. You know, and I don't spend too much time with family at the moment, but they do their absolute best to go ahead and visit me when the days I'm working, and they cheer me up. You know, but besides it, it's working. You know,
what drives you to do that?
My goal is to retire my parents.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to. You know, the first time when my mother went ahead and called me, and she was going ahead and talking about her emotional needs. You know, she was venting, and then, you know, I was a former cop before this, but NYPD. You know, I went to nursing school as well too. You know, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, I need to figure out a way, because she's constantly complaining about the bills, but she's making the bills. She's living paycheck to paycheck, right? So me, someone who's sitting there and not doing enough, someone who literally carried me for 9 months, right? Someone who gave their life to me. You know, it's only right to go ahead and give back to her. And I'm very close to go ahead and make that dream come true for her.
That's exciting. Yeah. That's also such a direct proof, right, of the impact that you're having and the passion that you do everything with. I can already tell. How did it stem? Like, how did the idea of What Do You Do for a Living stem? How did you start that project in particular? Right.
As soon as I sat there, right, I was like 25, 27 years old, watching these videos. I'm always scrolling on my phone, constantly, every single time. I'm taking a subway to go to work, and I'm like, there's something here. Everyone is always on their phone, right? The analogy I like to make, for example, right, is like when Bitcoin first came out, right? When it was like maybe like $2,000, $1,000, whatever the case is, everyone wished they invested into that opportunity, but they lost that chance. Same thing with social media right now in today's society. It takes one viral clip to go ahead and go bonkers, right? So I sat there, I'm like, I don't really like my career at all. It does like the bare minimum, but I want to be someone who's successful. I want to be someone who makes a lot of money and always give back. You know, being an officer at the time was maybe making like $1,500 every 2 weeks. So it was like $3,000. Absolutely
and living
nothing.
In New York, how do you do it?
Struggling.
Yeah.
Right. You know, as lame as it sounds, I love to struggle, because in every single mess, there's always a test to go ahead and get out of the situation.
I love that you just said that, because and that's a huge purpose of this podcast, which is talking about your journey, right? And the non-linear nature of it. You know, you said it yourself. You started, you know, you've been a cop, you've been a nurse. Now, you know, you're a content creator that is quite literally interacting with different people every day, right? Of all walks of life. What would you say the takeaway has been personally, and how has that influenced the impact that you want to have on those who watch your series?
Personally, I feel like this is not about me at all. It's always about the people. You know, I make sure that everyone has an opportunity to go ahead and share their story on my platform. You know, I'll tell you a quick story.
Please do.
I'm making a video, doing an interview, whatever, and the interview is going on, right? Complete random stranger. I hear someone behind this individual saying, I know exactly what that is. That's Con. I'm like, that's Con. I'm like, what's happening right now? So this interview was completely done. The What Do You Do Living was completely done. As I'm walking, he goes, hey, can I talk to you? I'm like, what's up? He goes, you saved my life. I was like, okay, I kind of like where this is going. He goes like, you posted my brother. And it popped on my For You page. I have not seen it for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
I was finally able to reach out to him. We squashed the beef, and we're finally back together. Because you had an emotional breakdown, goes that this guy's from like Miami. This is happening in New York, right? And it just shows how like my platform, we generated 1 billion views in 1 year. You know, Miami is great. We expand everywhere. But the point of the story right now is that we're always making it about the people, not me. And I want to work. You know, that's my goal in life.
I love it.
That makes sense.
What inspired that first question that you kick off with, which is, what do you do for a living? Is it the fact that you at the time weren't happy with your job and you also wanted to see what was out there? Or tell me more about that.
Yeah, you know, it's quite of a question that it's a really interesting question. That question inspired because first and foremost, right, I didn't like what I was doing at all. I wanted a better career. Right, and I was asking people like, "What do you do for a living? You know, what do you do for?" A and it's kept going, and you don't know what the response is going to be, and you don't know what the follow-up also. So I go back, "What do you do for a living? What do you like about your job? What made you pursue this career?" You know, you have so many different stories, right? And you go ahead and you have this beautiful niche, and every single day, you're bound to have a new story.
Yeah.
Point blank.
And you always start with a compliment. 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, you always start like, "Hey, I love your outfit."
Yeah.
What's the science behind, or like, what's the thought process behind that?
You know, that's also an amazing question, right? I'm gonna go ahead and explain to you. Hypothetical speaking, say we're roommates. I knock on the door and I say, "Hey, can I go ahead and borrow your car because I got to go to the store?" Chances are you may say no. You may say no, not right now. Right? But if I walk in and say, "Hey, like your hair looks stunning. Like, did you get something done?" But it's a compliment, but I actually genuinely mean the compliment. So it's kind of more like a reverse psychology to make you feel comfortable now. Right? Because you have to also remember these people are complete strangers.
Oh, 100%.
They're not entitled to go ahead and answer my question at all. You know, rejections. And then after a while, I'm like, wait, I genuinely love this person outfit. Right? It's an icebreaker.
Yeah.
Now, what's the right thing to say back? "Well, thank you so much. Oh, it's very sweet of you." And then you go ahead and you follow a question about it. "What do you do for a living?" There's a high chance of them going ahead and answer that question. So my team and I sat down there and we put literally everything in ChatGPT. By the way, I'm a big AI guy. You know,
okay.
It can be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy, right?
Okay.
So when we sat there, we literally put in all our, videos as well as the questions and the response back saying that you give them a compliment allows them to go ahead and interact with you.
Yeah, to be maybe more receptive to the interaction.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about Bleecker Street? The reason I'm asking all these questions is because I know that you're a very intentional person.
Right.
So there has to be a reason for every aspect of it, right? So you've already answered why, what do you do for a living? Why you start off with a compliment? Why Bleecker Street? And I'm going to follow that up as well with how do you select who to approach? So let's talk why Bleecker Street first, and then we can head to
before we even get into that, you brought up an amazing word, intentionally. Not to be off the grid right now, but in life, everything has a purpose. You drinking a sip of water, me drinking a sip of water, has a reason behind it. It does something to our body. Calories, walking, getting up, going to work, whatever. Every single thing that you do in life has a reason behind it. So if you're just sitting there right now and just expecting to be like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and, just be a millionaire, it's impossible. It does not work like that at all. Yeah. You have to work. You fail, and you go ahead. You got a little better. You work. You fail, and you got a little better. You work with a snap. Your whole life changes. So the word intentionally is a strong word. And I think people just like completely ignore that word and expect that life can just keep, life goes on, but your life has a purpose. If that makes sense at all.
Yes, no, it absolutely does.
Bleecker, right? So, I mean, look, it's the best flock in Manhattan. No one's going to go ahead and argue with me at all. You can go ahead and compare that with anything. You just walk and it just smells fresh air.
It does. And everyone does look great, by the way. Yeah. So I agree with you starting off with an outfit because you're constantly looking around. Granted, we're in New York and that kind of comes with the vibe.
Right.
But I have walked down Bleecker a million times, right? And every time I'm there, I'm like, wow, like it feels the same essence, but also different because of the people walking it. So anywho, go ahead.
Yeah.
Back to you.
It's also like you're comfortable. It's a respectful environment. Everyone's hardworking. Everyone is trying to put a smile on everyone's face, right? But essentially, the reason why I wanted to go ahead and pursue that block, because I plan on opening up a cafe. Yeah.
Tell me more.
We're gonna go ahead and open this cafe. It's gonna happen regardless, right? I'm someone who drinks about 3 coffees a day, And the one thing that I love about that block is that, there's coffee shops on the right, but I took a few steps back, and going back to my mother real quick, when she made that phone call to me, she wanted to pursue one of her dreams, and she's from Afghanistan. And as we know in Afghanistan, women are very limited to go ahead and pursue what they want to do. Yeah. And the one thing that she always was telling me, like, coffee. Let's start bringing in like our like South Asian, the desserts and everything. As we know, it's super good. But the one thing that coffee has, if I were to ask you drink coffee at all?
I'm Colombian, so the answer should be heck yes. I do drink coffee, but it's not. Oh my
God! I don't think what you're missing out.
I do drink coffee, so the short answer is yes. I drink coffee, but I'm not someone who needs it as a daily thing. I like it more for the taste than for the function that it provides. And my coffee personally has more milk than coffee. It's more like coffee with a splash.
You do drink coffee every day?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Amazing. Because for a second I thought you didn't drink coffee at all, and I'm glad you said, because until that, wait until my shop opens up, and I guarantee you have the best coffee out there.
I am so excited to try it.
So there's one drug that we know that coffee has. Just caffeine. Caffeine is something that we depend on.
Yeah.
Right? You have to find something that people are always going to go ahead and depend on, right? Regardless of what the price is.
Yeah.
Right? If the price is literally, $50, they're going to find a way to go ahead and find that $50.
I also would argue too, coffee brings people together. Like a cafe, you catch up with someone real quickly, or you get work done. And on top of that, there is a science as well behind the environment that you create where you are selling that product, because you're not just really selling the product itself, you're selling the experience that come with it.
Right.
Starbucks looked very deeply into that, as many cafes do after the fact. And people will remember that. Right.
That's one thing. That's also another thing we brought up. The science behind it is absolutely incredible. Right. The whole caffeine, how it stimulates the brain. It's something that you're going to get stuff done. And then also another fact, especially in the West Village, it's a community that everyone wants to be part of something.
Yeah.
At all times. And I see it. I literally see. I kid you not. I'm like, what's going on over here? Like, people just talk to everyone, right? And there's always newcomers coming all the time. And I also said to myself, what's a better way to go ahead and have a beautiful cafe called What Do You Brew for a Living? I mean, how incredible is that?
I love that.
I mean, think about it, right? You don't.
I'm ready for the merch. I know you have "What Do You Do for a Living" T-shirts, so I'm ready for that.
So funny
merch.
story. We actually had merch. We did have a merch for quite a while, and it got sold out so fast. It was doing incredible. But then from there, I think my team was like, honestly, I think we should maybe hold off on this and just maybe wait until the coffee shop opens up.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And one thing that we want to also do with the coffee shop, you brought up a good point, networking. Right. So as we kind of want to have like a membership / if you don't have to go ahead and purchase the membership at all. But essentially, you're going to go ahead and like scan, and if your video does come up that I made in the past, it comes on a slideshow, and it says like your job. If you even want to explore into your salary,
like a spotlight,
your description, exactly. So I know, okay. Oh, for example, I seen so and so does business and is looking for someone to go ahead and help with the finance. I'm someone who does finance. Right, so I can go ahead, and also we're gonna have opportunity where people can go ahead and just like vent about their feelings, want to get something off their chest. And I think that we're human beings who are always who love to interact.
Yeah, absolutely. We yearn for connection. That's in our most purest form.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way. It's gonna be an environment that you can go ahead, you can have your nice coffee. If you are a teacher, if you are a nurse, you're gonna get some sort of discount. We appreciate your hard work, and I admire the medical field because I was someone who was a nurse. I'm going to make sure I'm going to take care of them. as best as I can.
Going a little bit on a tangent, but just out of personal curiosity, you know, you've touched so many fields at this point, right? All with the driving force of like working hard, right? Giving back to the community. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were little? And how has that changed now?
You know, I love your questions a lot. You know, growing up, you know, not to sound boring at all, you know, being a cop was one thing I had in mind. As I was getting older, I noticed that I'm a God-fearing person. You know, I'm someone who's Muslim, really religious, and you know, I feel like my purpose in this life is to work, regardless what the situation is. But it's I'm gonna make sure I work to make a difference every single time. You know, one of the questions that I ask people is like, how do you want to be remembered overall? It's an amazing question. I get
and that's
like
coming up for you too, so start thinking of your answer.
So I just love to work. You know, it's like, you know, I don't really have anything in mind, but I've always done in every single environment I stepped into, I've always found a way how to make sure to climb the top, to give the best I can get, to give to whatever it is in that field.
So you knew from a young age you wanted to work, what that looked like could be, you know, anything as long as that. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
Going back to the question that we kind of left off to the side earlier, how do you select who to approach when you're doing this series?
Yeah. You never judge. You know, you absolutely never judge anyone because you don't know their story at all. You know, I can sit here and talk about so many stories that I came across, and you know, one of my favorite stories that I actually came across was this girl was just walking, you know, and wasn't really wearing anything crazy. And of course, I went ahead and I gave a compliment to break the ice, and you know, she responded back saying thank you. And I'm like, "What do you do for a living?" And she goes, she was like, "Nothing crazy. I just work at a chocolate store." I'm like, "What?"
So you're the real life Willy Wonka.
Okay, so literally, and I was like, "Wait a minute. You work at a chocolate store? Sorry, you work at a chocolate store. Do you know that there's many things that human beings crave? One of the 4 things is chocolate. So you are doing an absolutely amazing job by giving chocolate away." She was really, I mean, yes, I love chocolate. I need to have my chocolate.
What's your favorite type now that we're talking about it?
Look, honestly, I'm on a strict diet right now, but when I do cheat, I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna be Snickers almond and Reese's.
Okay.
I think I may lean a little more peanut butter, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We're
Yeah,
opposites in that sense, but that's okay.
I'm a big peanut butter guy.
Okay. So anywho, you were telling her what a great job you're doing. I love chocolate personally, and so do many other people.
Right.
And how did she respond?
She was shocked, as if like someone actually gave her a compliment.
Yeah.
She was like, "Wow, I'm actually being acknowledged for my work." And like stuff like that gets me like, I don't want to use the word angry, but like emotionally at the moment, like you should be acknowledged for your work, because you don't know who's going to walk into the store next, who's having a crappy day, where you give them a piece of chocolate. I know it sounds like whatever, lame, but
it doesn't sound lame, by the way.
But they're going to go ahead and have an amazing day, but you give them the chocolate, right? So once again, we never judge at all. You just don't know what to expect, the response at all.
So the criteria for approaching people is what? Someone who maybe smiles at you, someone who's wearing something particularly, you know, attention grabbing, or you just kind of go for it and hope for the best?
Look, I'll be honest. Look, if there's someone who is actually just like flashing out and their outfit is stunning, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to make sure we're going to get this interview going. Yeah. So to answer your question, there are times when I'm like looking, okay, I'm going to have to go in and approach this individual. And the question is, right now, they're dressed to impress. They're dressing for a reason. You know, obviously they're dressing for themselves, but also for the fact that I want to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, 10 out of 10 times, we never get the answer no. Immediately response, answer the question. Videos does millions, right? And Stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, look, if it's a great outfit, you are going to get approached by Khan, and he's going to ask you, "I love your outfit."
And it's even happened. I mean, again, I follow your content, obviously, and I've seen people who you initially ask, and it's either they don't hear you or it doesn't click until a couple steps forward, and then they turn around and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's you."
Yeah,
and so not only is it the compliment that you gave, but also the recognition behind the hard work that you've done up until now and the notoriety of the series at this point.
100%. Also another thing, if you notice, my platform, we made over 2,000 videos. Right? We started on TikTok first, and from there we transitioned to Instagram. Now we're posting on old platform. The one thing that I made sure I did was to allow the people to use their voice on my platform. I made sure I was not in any videos at all. I made sure that there were it was all about them as well too, as opposed to me being in video and also having a cameraman. I made sure that their story was shared, right? And then from there, when they say, "Oh my God, you're the guy," you do have that hesitation, and you do hear like the reaction is amazing. That reaction, as we know, what I brought up earlier, is that when we put that into ChatGPT or stuff like that, they said because of their reaction, it goes like over 10 million views. Now I'm saying, do I want to be in front of the camera now? Which I do at some point. We're going to go ahead and switch it up a little bit. But that reaction is so big.
I was going to say, you've thrown out huge numbers, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about the impact of those numbers. What's the ripple effect that you've seen in terms of the amount of people that you are touching, right? And your content is exposed to, whether it's people who are DMing you and being like, "Wow, I'm super inspired by this one particular video because I too want to be an XYZ," or tell me a little bit about the impact just beyond those numbers, aside from the reach.
Yeah. People are quitting their jobs constantly. Because we're hitting so many numbers now, and we're getting so many DMs. Just right now, I kid you not, I can show my phone, that someone goes, "Because of you, you inspire me to go ahead and pursue what I wanted to do." Because someone actually enjoys their job, right? People are quitting their 9-to-5 jobs constantly, and I love that. And people also watch my video because it makes them feel relaxed. So the key to success, some Muslim, there's a prayer called the Hajj prayer.
Okay.
Wallahi, meaning Allah is my witness, whatever you want, it will be granted to you. Whatever you want. It's called the Hajj prayer. Clip this video, you're going to thank me next time coming around. What it is that us Muslims believe that our Lord, his name is Allah, we believe in one Lord, right? He comes down from the lowest heaven and he says, "Who's calling upon me?" And I'll respond back to him. Right? Who's asking for something, and I will give to him. Who is asking for forgiveness, and I will forgive you. Right? Every single 3 a.m., the last third of the night, I wake up, and my success comes through this prayer. But I wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, and I do these prayers. I've been doing it for a period of long time, and I just see the beautiful, the blossom of all my prayers being answered. It's called dua, D-U-A.
Okay.
All my duas are being answered. And whatever I want.
I've never heard of that, but
I'm
thank
telling
you for
you,
sharing.
Try it out. The good time comes and the bad time comes. But when the bad time comes, it comes like a truck.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to stop that.
You literally just mentioned, and thank you for doing so, the fact that there are good times and there are not so great times, right? Let's talk about any challenges that you faced, whether it's related to the series and starting to get it going, or something previously that was a bit of a turning point maybe for you in terms of reevaluating what you're doing or kind of reshifting focus. Right. The reason that I ask is because I think our society only focuses on the highlights, which makes going through a low point a little bit harder because we don't know that many people that are open about sharing that. But I think it's equally important, if not more important, to share, hey, I too have struggled, whatever that looks like, and this is how I overcame it. So if you're open to talking about maybe an instance.
Yeah, 100%. So I honestly feel like when you're struggling, that is the best opportunity right now to go ahead and to grow from that situation. It is the best way to learn. So have I ever struggled in the past? 100%. Yeah, there's times when I struggle, right? But I made sure that I cannot go to sleep until I figure out how I'm going to go ahead and make about $2,000 the next 24 hours. I need to figure out a way how to go ahead and make this money because I have to go ahead and pay the rent. If I can't make that rent, I'm in trouble. Right? Struggles in the past allowed me to only grow and become a stronger person. The struggles that I came across, man, seeing my mother work a lot. I haven't really, my struggles, to be honest.
Please,
besides even that, my mother working, my struggle is the month of Ramadan. As you know, Muslims go ahead and they have no food, no water, nothing. And I still have to get up. I still have to go to work. I still have to go ahead and make my content. I have to go to the gym. I have to make my meals, right? I have to answer emails as well too. That is my struggle, right? Constantly working every single time. Not having enough time with people I truly love. But now I dedicated a solid 1 year of my life to hard working. My struggle right now, at the moment, I'm not able to see my family how I wanted to see them. Yeah. And it hurts me. I'm very close to my dad, my sisters, everyone, right? That killed me inside. But my mom said, we know you didn't forget about us. The only thing you know right now, you're building us an empire. And we appreciate that. I can say right now, after 1 year, right, someone like me, that we're clearing about over $25,000 a month.
That's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah. So that's coming after hard work every single time. Was the struggle worth it? 100%. But my struggle is different from your struggle. I'm a big family guy. Yeah. So.
Tell me about, because I know that you're full of stories and I appreciate you for it. I know that we could go on for hours, but I'd love to know what has been one of your most memorable encounters. For whatever reason it may be, whether it's, wow, I didn't know that job existed, or I'm inspired, or whatever the case may be. Like, you've interviewed so many people. Right. Is there one that particularly stands out? And why does it stand out?
So many. Oh my God.
I'm sure it's like asking a parent their favorite child, right?
Yeah, literally their favorite child. I'll say this, ready? I'll give you one part of this individual. I say, if you had one piece of advice to give to the world, what would it be? And their response is, fail as soon as possible, very quick. Don't waste your time, because you have to risk it for you to believe it that it worked or it didn't work. After that whole situation, when I said, look, I don't normally do this at all. You have like 5 minutes to talk. Yeah, I said, you brought up a good point about fail right away. I'm someone who hates failing. He goes, great. He goes, I'm going to tell you a secret. If you absolutely try your absolutely best, life dependent on it, making sure like your life depends on it. He goes, I was like, okay. He goes, the universe is giving. Mm-hmm. If you absolutely try your best, I never met anyone who tried and didn't get what they wanted. They get like 60% there, 30% there as well, and then they quit. Because if you actually tried, you would never ever fail at what you want in life.
Yeah, and failing can be scary for all of us, right? But I do agree with you in terms of failure is such a big learning lesson, and it's really about what you take from that and what you do from that point forward that kind of sets you up for success. I'm curious to know, you said you've been doing this close to a year, if not an entire year. How has the goal changed the more that you've been doing this? Like from the get-go, right? Which your reason for doing it, said by you, is you wanted to connect with people, you wanted to get out there, you wanted to that basically that connection. To now, how has the goal changed based on the amount of people that you have reached?
For my future, you're saying? or just like
in general for you, for what you want to do with the series?
Yeah. So my team and I decided to go ahead and majority of the people that we encounter with, we're going to go ahead and have a podcast. You know, we're going to go ahead and explore more into their career. You know, the goal that we have is obviously the cafe, which you want to open up. The podcast. We also want to start throwing in like one-on-one coaching. And I think a lot of people need it. They need a lot of coaching. And then a social club. You ever heard of like a Soho House, stuff like that?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
So the goal always keeps getting bigger and bigger. There's never going to be a time that we're going to go ahead and stop. If that makes sense. Yeah.
I've seen many people who have made it, right? Whatever that means for everybody on social media, advise people and say, you know, you really just have to do it. You said it earlier, right? You have to take a chance and you have to do it. So what do you have to say to those who may be listening or watching us right now who have some idea or some message that they want to share with the world, but may be intimidated by the fact that, oh, I'm going to put it in the world. What are people going to say? You know, what, maybe you went through something like that, but even if you didn't, what advice or what tips do you have to maybe make it a little bit more approachable or realistic to take that what could be a scary step?
Yeah, so let's focus on social media, right? You know, I'm very big on social media. I love everything about it. I think the future is absolutely bright for social media. And at the end of the day, at the end of the night, it's you and yourself. Who cares what other people have to say about you? I know I know it sounds really cliche, but I'm going to be honest with you. I personally don't care at all. For those who's out there posting content, post whatever you have to do to go viral. It takes one viral clip for you to be known, for you to use your voice. But if you're going to go ahead and be behind the curtains, right, and shy away from someone that's much bigger than his people, at every situation you get into, well, whoever it is, if it's Michael Jordan, if it's LeBron James, you know, every individual always has, as we know, haters. Who cares about them? As long as they're in your, you know, if they're thinking about you, you're doing something right. So for those who are literally watching this, please do me a favor, start posting and your life would change. Come back to me after 6 months, say, hey, Con, I've been posting for 6 months. I quit my 9-to-5 job. My wife loves me even more now because I spend more time with her. I have my own business. You know, what are you waiting for? If not now, when? Like, when will you do it?
Is the secret sauce just posting, or is there more to that, though?
Now you want my whole blueprint. Posting, yeah. Posting is the secret. Posting? Let's actually go back, sorry. Have faith in God. I'm someone who has faith in God. Love your family. Get to the gym. Make sure you eat healthy. And then obviously like the posting, the social media and stuff like that. And I guarantee you, when you clear your first million, a sponsorship is going to come around. Big collaboration. You know, we encounter so many big time celebrities. You know, I'm a fan favorite, Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank.
Yes.
We love Willem Dafoe. As you know, Jennifer Lopez.
I was going to say, recently, her video went viral for many reasons, right? But and thank you for bringing it up, when you do encounter celebrities, right? What have you noticed in terms of their reaction when you ask them, what do you do for a living? Because by being a celebrity, right, you kind of assume people approach you because they either know you or anything. As someone who's not a celebrity, that's what that's kind of like the outside looking in. But what experience or what difference would you say, if there has been one, between the interactions that you've had with celebrities, like the ones you just mentioned, particularly Jennifer Lopez, compared to just a Joe Schmo, but equally important person on the street? Yeah.
I treat everyone the same. And we know it in my bid as well too. The same way I approach Jennifer Lopez is the same way I approach someone else on the street. And it was quite interesting when I went in and I approached her. She was kind of taken back. You ever watched that video when she was in the Bronx and she's visiting her old house?
When she says, "If you know, you know."
Yeah, if you know, you know. And the guy goes like, "Jennifer who?" And it was the most funniest thing ever. And when you go on when you type in my name, like my first and last name, it pops up like influencer And I think they finally caught on with it. They're like, I'm putting on the show because when I'm on the street, I have to be in character, right? And my character is always spreading positivity and kindness, as we know, and I say it on all my lines. And I'm never going to go ahead and treat anyone differently. If you're Jennifer Lopez, if you're someone else random, to me, you're a human being. Yeah. And that's someone to make sure I'm going to treat you, right? We're all children of, God, and you're not any better than me. You may, yes, I'm going to respect you for your work. Yes, that's different. You have to respect someone for their work. Yes, that's a big deal. But even that whole video as well too. We did that with Willem Dafoe. The media, went crazy. NBC, CBS, all these big time news channel were like saying like, how did influencers not even know who Willem Dafoe is? So he's an amazing actor, and I'm like, wait, there's something here. Yeah. So I went and I picked that up, and I'm like, Jennifer Lopez is walking down Bleecker Street. I'm going to go ahead and make this whole in character. Yeah. And it's phenomenal.
Curious to know, what has your experience been with learning how to deal with different people's reactions, especially in a city like New York, when you approach someone randomly? I mean, we already talked about the importance of what you start off with, right? That icebreaker.
Right.
But I'm sure that there is still some rejection, for lack of better wording, where you approach someone and they're either not interested, they're in a rush, which is the typical New York line. How has that made you stronger, or how do you usually take that?
Yeah. So at first it was a bit of a challenge starting out because no one knew who the hell I was. And to be honest, I don't blame them. It's a random stranger that's approaching you. And I would honestly do the same thing. And then when I gain the respect, as I brought up earlier, it's quite easy now to have a conversation with the majority of people on Bleecker Street. And the rejection can be, I guess, really rude sometimes. For those of you who's watching this, okay, can you please be a little more nice? Like the middle finger, go F off, go get a real job, whatever. Like, it can be really bad. I maybe had one situation where someone has to put their hands on me, and I was like, whoa, hey, my guy, you gotta relax. Yeah. I make sure everyone has about 8 feet away from me. There's a distance away from me. The camera's not shoving your face at all. And the best is like, when people mess me aside, like, leave them alone. I'm like, you're not entitled to answer my question. Just walk away and I won't post the video. It's just common sense. Yeah. At the beginning, the rejection was challenging. Yeah. But over some time, with consistency of content, just work on the lines, slowing down the approach, give them that space. And then everything just fell into places.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's one of the many aspects that maybe is not talked about, and maybe people who follow you or who have seen your videos may not think about. Is there anything else that you want to share and shed light on that you want people to know that comes with what you do to make this series, to continue to work for your family, like you mentioned?
Yeah. I would definitely say this much, right? I'm someone who I have my main job, and I also have creating content as well too, right? For those who actually quit their main job and pursuing creating content, please, everyone, do us a favor. Do not bash them down. So I'm gonna be honest with you, creating content, being a content creator in the future is gonna do phenomenal. It's doing phenomenal now, but it's only gonna get bigger as well too. Put respect on some of these people's name. You have to. It's really rude what they're doing to people. People actually work their butt off 12 hours a day creating content, and you're over there sitting there and bashing them down for what? Yeah.
How do you balance everything that you do? You've mentioned you have a day job.
Yeah.
And creating content is a lot of work. So how do you balance that? In addition to waking up at 3 a.m.
No, 100%. So, the whole thing, like the one man army. Yeah. That doesn't exist anymore.
I agree.
You're going to need a team. You're going to need a team. It's gotten a little easier, but once again, I love the adrenaline every single day that I personally get, because I'm always working. But having a team is the most fastest way to go ahead and overcome those challenges, the time management, so they can go ahead and schedule people in as well for videos and this and that, like, editing videos, posting, answering emails, because you're not going to go ahead and do it all by yourself. Because at the end of the day, what I'm doing right now, there's someone else who's watching my video who wants to do the same thing. I get it all the time. I love your content. I live in Spain. Can you teach me how to go ahead? Someone's always going to go ahead and come after your job. Mm-hmm. So the one way of passing them, hire a team. Have solid people so that they can go ahead and share their thoughts and get everything situated for you.
Yeah. 2 more questions for you before we wrap up. The first one is, how do you define success? And how would you say you're tracking towards that? And does success maybe change?
Success it's a great word, and it's a really strong word. My definition of success is retiring your parents. If you're able to do that,
you've made it.
You made it. We always go back to our parents, right? And I get the goosebumps about that, right? You have to. Success is paying off your mom's debt, your dad's debt. You know, making sure that your wife is able to go ahead and get her nails done, have a nice time. Whatever she wants, she can get. Making sure your kids have 3 meals a day, or even more.
Yeah.
You know, going on vacations, you know, having several property, owning stuff, you know, being an entrepreneur, making a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that I'm very against, you know, I don't know your views on this, is when people go, just live your life. Just whatever it is, just live it. I'm like, don't take life too seriously. No, you have to. Because at any given point, you don't know if you're going to lose your job.
I think there's...
This balance is,
there's a balance. I think it's very
yes.
personal, right? How you view that. In my personal opinion, I think an ideal world is a little bit of both, right? You take life seriously when you need to, but because you take it seriously and you work hard and you do things right and you put good into the world, you're able to also maybe take a step back at times and enjoy life with your family too.
You reward yourself.
Exactly.
You reward
yourself. It's a give and a take and a balance.
I think sometimes when I see a lot of people doing it, I'm like looking at that, I'm like, man, I wish I could help them out. But they generally are not taking life seriously at all. Like, you have a purpose to be here. Fulfill that role. For example, you have a role, you're fulfilling it, you're pursuing a dream, but then yet again, you also have those days when you want to go ahead and enjoy your time. That's okay.
Absolutely.
But make sure you balance everything. You know, so success comes through making sure that my family's retired, money's always coming in, you know, my wife, or, you know, making sure that they all have a phenomenal day.
Last question for you. You mentioned a cafe.
Oh, you're doing an amazing job. I gotta
thank you.
Your questions are your follow-up questions are absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This truly is my passion, which is something that you've mentioned too. When you do what you love and with intention, it's going to go well.
Right.
You've mentioned the podcast, you've mentioned the cafe, you've mentioned a social club. You have all of these plans. Firstly, what exclusive can you give us in terms of a timeline? Like, when can people expect or look forward to this? What can you give our listeners that maybe they will hear first or only hear? Yeah,
so we're hoping to do this in the fall of 2025.
That is now. Oh my gosh, that's so soon.
We're hoping. We do have big time investors who are going to go ahead and speed up the process. They love my story, but to answer your question, we're looking to do this in the fall of 2025.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. Yes. Not that you need it, but it's amazing. And this is exactly why it's so important to share these stories in terms of, you know, you started out creating content and you're going to, I'm sure, continue to do that. But there's always bigger things that come with that. And the amount of people that you'll continue to reach. I'm excited to see what the future holds for you. Thank you so much for joining.
Well, thank you for having me. You know, and by the way, I love your outfit.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
You look amazing.
Maybe one day we'll run into each other on Bleecker Street.
For sure. We'll definitely make it happen.
Thank you again for joining me, and everyone for watching and listening. Catch you next time with more Convos with Sazón. Bye.
Thank you.